Hello, everyone, and welcome to another smiling episode of the Conversations with Coaches podcast. As you could probably tell from the tone of my voice, I am speaking through a smile because I've already been talking for at least 15 minutes to our guest today, Sohee June. She is fantastic, and I'm excited to get to introduce you to her. She's great. Let me introduce you formally, and then you get to hear her, and trust me, she's going to make an impression. As a top leadership coach, keynote speaker, leadership development expert, and Amazon bestselling author, Dr. June works with high-achieving women and emerging leaders to unleash their untapped power for themselves and for their teams. There's tons more to talk about, Sohee. I'm already tickled I get to talk to you today, and I'm glad I get to share this conversation. So just thank you for being here and for being you. I think.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, Kevin, let's get into it. I always love listening to the bio part because quite honestly, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm a pretty cool person.
It's like, hey, that's me that he's talking about, and that's all true. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Which is kind of a good aspect of coaching too. It's like coaches give you that perspective that you maybe can't quite get for yourself about yourself. But we can get into that. We can get into that later if you want.
We have so many things we need to talk about.
Oh, I know. I'm already plotting and scheming for part 2s and 3s as the year develops. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I promise. So first, I always love asking this question. What's your superhero origin story as a coach? How did you realize or discover, or who told you that maybe you already were a coach in all but name, and what basically prompted you to move into coaching as an expression of your personal and professional self, and what got you to start your own coaching business?
Ooh, that's such a layered question. And yeah. The way that I answer that is to say that, I coach through my lived experience, and the moment that I knew is not one big giant moment, but it's a series of experiences that really led me here. So I was really lucky enough to have found this profession in my last year of undergrad, where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go the medical degree route, although I was, heavily pressured to. And I stayed true to this innate knowing for me that I'm fascinated by psychology and people. And not just because I like people, but because it's what makes us tick? What are those things underneath that, can help us be successful? So I went into it. And I found this burgeoning field of organizational psychology. And at the time, not a lot of people knew about it. So I was like, what can I do with this? And I chased down my professors, and I was like, I want to know more. Just tell me more. I'm so passionate about this. And they told me about a graduate program where you can get your master's and PhD in this field. And I was like, sign me up. Kevin, it's like when you know, and those moments are rare. And so I followed that and went through a PhD program that allowed me to do this work in-house, meaning this work being everything talent management, culture, strategy, team interventions, leadership development, soup to nuts. And I want to say it was probably 10 years in where I started to really, really notice that the most impact, the direct impact that I could have was one-on-one coaching conversations that I was having at all levels, C-suite, SVPs, down to your frontline employees. And I was getting really curious with it. I was like, okay, I can do the big team stuff and I enjoy that. But a conversation that I get to be in where people trust me really quickly and I'm able to meet them where they're at. There was something really magical about that. And I started to follow that. I wanted to do more of that work, which allowed me to really own that my superpowers were all, kind of intermixing, and that I get to use my power of really deep listening and also being able to support and challenge in the moment that they're in. So, fast forward through my amazing career, I've been able to lead teams and work for wonderful companies. And then I really wanted to do this on my own as a coach to high achieving women and emerging leaders. So yeah, this is 5 years now that I've had my own firm.
Excellent.
I know. It's been so much fun.
It flies by, doesn't it?
Gosh, I look back, I'm like, they say the 5-year mark is kind of critical in terms of entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So every day I count my blessings that I get to impact in that way and serve in that way.
I love that it's such a common refrain that I hear, especially amongst coaches. But I love everyone has their unique steps on their path to where essentially you just realize that there's a way for you to have the kind of impact you want to have and connect in the way you want to connect and serve in the way you want to serve. And you identify not only the manner in which you want to serve, but also who you want to serve. And I love that it's like your opportunities expand and abound as your focus contracts and gets narrower and tighter and hotter, and it's I feel like amplifies your impact in such a profound way as you're willing to pursue that.
Yes. And I think a lot of coaches or just entrepreneurs struggle with that concept of uber focusing. I mean, I'll tell you, I didn't get it right, or there is no right, but I made a lot of what I call missteps or data points that gave me data to pivot. And it was one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to narrow my niche. It's just what if I never get a client? What if I never get anything, kind of like a fear mentality. And I really had to look at that for myself and go, look, I know how I want to be in service. And what I noticed in looking back in the breadcrumbs is that when I got curious and owned that is the best way for me to be in service, it allowed me to have more confidence to go, okay, I'm going to hyper focus, which to your point results in people being clear about how they can work with you and how you can best serve them. So yeah, full circle.
I love that little phrase, that little transitional phrase, when I got curious. Doesn't so much come from that moment when you just allow yourself or decide to be curious? What comes after that? It's
yes. I'm like grabbing my face and I'm like, curiosity for me is so core. It's a core value of mine. And when I unpack curiosity for people and even for myself, underneath it means that you are suspending judgment. Right? How many of us walk around with biased notions of everything? And part of that is, hardwiring to help us survive day to day, but also that we walk around with all of these judgments. And so how can we suspend that for the moment and be open-minded to what is occurring? So all those are big things to say, like, be in the moment.
And I find that I so frequently find that especially with coaches, is that people will sometimes think that it's about answers. But really what a good coach does is they come to you with the better questions. It's always the next question. I feel like that's an expression of that innate core curiosity that really both grounds and uplifts what a good coach can do and what a good coach can bring to your life. It's just to help you to unearth things and to not bring you to an arrival point where you have an answer that solves a problem, but to open up the world that you're in with questions that do focus you and narrow your vision and allow you to really drill down and see far enough forward and not think of narrow as less, because really narrow is more in a way that it's important to explore, I think.
Yeah. I think those two things are very much linked. The curious and being able to stay open. And also for me, it's a matter of, I wrote this article early on about the art of the question, and it is such a powerful thing that you mentioned, because how many of us walk around, talking to people and they ask you yes or no questions, which really shuts things down. It's very limiting. And so when you're able to ask questions from a place of curiosity and more about discovery rather than I'm going to tell you what to do and direct your life, because we're all adult. I mean, the people I work with, they're adults, and I don't believe that I can give them a better answer than they can come to themselves with the right guidance. So my job is to innately tune into what is being shared with me, hone in on those themes that keep coming up, illuminating that, asking questions. And guess what? I mean, I think this day and age too, Kevin, maybe you find this, there are people that want me to be a little bit more directive, and I'll meet them where they're at and, maybe much more focused and pointed with the questions, not leading them, but just it's the ability to use the art form of the question to help unlock possibilities. I live in a world of what's possible.
And sometimes, and I really appreciate that you highlight that need to meet people where they're at, because you can't just apply these kinds of concepts like a paste over top of whoever's coming to you. In fact, I think that's antithetical to what a coach brings to the table. A coach they have their systems and processes and their ideas. They have their programs, their principles, their frameworks. It's all part of what a coach brings. But really, a just as if not more important aspect is that agility, that adaptability, that empathy that allows you to show up as a coach for someone closer to where they already are, and start the bridge building from that closer point. If you, I often think about the analogy of bridge building. The farther apart you start, the more work it's going to require to actually build a bridge that people can cross, that things can cross over, that can support. And the closer you start, the easier it is to get to work on those bridges, those connections that are going to allow more and more traffic to pass between you. And then eventually that person's going to learn how to build bridges better for themselves and be able to connect with more people in more dynamic ways. And I feel like that coming closer and meeting people where they're at is a really crucial step that I feel like, I don't know if it gets overlooked, but I don't think it gets enough shine in our conversations. And so I love that you pointed that out.
Oh my gosh, your visual metaphor of the bridge is so right on. That is what it's about. And I think as we talk about it, that is one of the superpowers that I have as a coach, which is of course, I have the PhD, I have the framework and all the years and all the things. But what I think brings value to the interaction is that I come to you, so say I'm interacting with you as though you are a blank slate to me. And I have tools that I will pull from. I pull from brain research, neuroscience, mindfulness, emotional intelligence work, all of that stuff that in the moment I can pull that would be useful to the person, say that you and I were talking. So I think that's the magic and creativity of being a coach. And I am such a believer of meeting them where they're at.
Speaking of them, I told you this conversation would be great. I just kind of want to like stay in the weeds and talk about these concepts with you all day. But I do want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about what your practice looks like today. Obviously, you're about 5 years into having your own coaching practice, and we know who you coach: high achieving women, emerging leaders. I usually ask this question in a borderline interrogation style, where it's like, who do you coach and how do you coach them? It's like, what did you know and when did you know it? But I'm curious what your practice looks like in a little bit more depth right now. Like, what's your experience coaching these high performing women? What is it like? What's your approach like? Are you still primarily one-to-one, or have you expanded into like smaller group coaching or masterminds or anything like that? And also, this is a little bit of a tease from me for you to maybe talk about any rhymes with cook that might be coming out later this year, if you want to talk about that as well. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about your activities as a coach today, and what's good and what's looking good coming up.
Yeah, I love that little teaser. So the bulk of my practice is one-on-one, and I am expanding into team coaching as I've gone through the year-long journey of, being certified in team coaching. And I think as I read tea leaves, and I think it behooves any coach to be looking futuristically, right? And I believe so much that because we work in such teams and matrixed environments, and it's complex in the work world, team coaching is going to jump at some point. And I know that I've done that with my clients that are willing to bring in their leaders or the people that are working on a project team together to see what this could be like. And it's so powerful. So team coaching, I see doing more of. And I do have coaching circles. So it's a yes and. So the bulk of my work is one-on-one with C-suite, SVP, director level women, as well as leaders that want that support to go from where they're at to more, right? They want that support to take on the next big thing. So that's where I specialize in. And interestingly enough, in the past 5 years, have had the honor of working with a lot of the entertainment, production, media, startups, because of the world that I'm in. I'm in Los Angeles. So not surprising. And then to answer that question of what's cooking, it's my second book. I'm so excited. I mean, this one. So my first book is called Mommy Tracked: How to Take Authentic Risks and Find Success on Your Own Terms. So that was a very different lens in terms of guiding women to define success on their own terms. So it was very much like, here's my lived experience. If it resonates for you, here's what you can do. This next book that is dropping in the fall, October, you're the first, Kevin, you're the first person I'm sharing that with.
Ooh, yeah, I was about to say October. That's specific. All right.
Very specific. So yeah, so it's October. So this is, oh gosh, I'm so excited about it. It is 2 years in the making, in which I surveyed and asked a lot of questions of the high achieving women in my practice, as well as in my network, and just people that I know that are fantastic in their own way. And what I noticed through my coaching practice, Kevin, is that we women, this is a book targeted for women, have these nuggets of wisdom, and we share it in our own little circles, little pods. I'll share it with you because I trust you. Here's the mistake I made. I wish I could have done that differently. Here's how I failed. Here's what I would tell myself when I'm 20, at 20, or even looking forward into 60, 70. All of these nuggets of wisdom that are just shared in their small tribe. I blew it up and I'm putting it in a book so that women can find themselves in it and look through the lens with which these women made mistakes and would do things differently, or yes, that was the right move for me, and like cull that wisdom into a book that they can then be like, okay, this is like my, this is like my mentor book. This is like the thing I want to pull out when I want some wisdom about how to navigate workplace and life challenges. So that's the book.
That's awesome. Look at you being a connector in a whole different way, a whole new way, building bridges.
I'm building bridges. You're right. Many bridges. That's exciting. Way to bring it back too.
Let's love that. It actually reminds me, there's almost like an almanac. Like that old word, just like this, a place where information, valuable, vital information that's been honed and discovered and like paid for through people's individual experiences gets collected into one place so that you don't have to live someone else's past in order to move into your future, if that makes sense.
Beautifully said. Yes. It's wisdom that's in there. And, it's so many of it is through stories because I'm not, yes, I have data and it's through surveys, but the book is about stories of, being at, so imagine like you're at a, your dinner table with your most trusted friends and colleagues. It's that type of feel where I want to invite the reader into my kitchen and I want them to feel a part of this journey and to get the nuggets. So
that's exciting. Get the nuggets. I'm tempted to make that the title of the episode just because I that phrase tickles me in some way, but I think I can do better than that. But I like that. Oh, I should ask too. It's probably not yet, or at least not announceable yet. But title of the book yet, or is that still being worked on or being held?
Locked, but I want to hold it. Hold
on to that. Okay. You gave me October, which I'm already over the moon about. So
I gave you enough, Kevin.
You did. I shall content myself with a block on the calendar. And I'm not kidding. I wasn't kidding when I said this. I'm definitely going to have you back at least once as we get closer to that release date so we could do a little more book talk, because I'm pretty stoked about that. That's the kind of thing that I feel like doesn't exist enough in the world. Like I'm sure there are versions of this somewhere in certain aspects, but this is like a good coach does. You've identified a gap and moved into it.
Yes.
And I love it. I love it so much. As also I suspected, I'm looking up at the clock now, and we've been recording for almost 20 minutes. We've been talking for well over 30 minutes.
What?
I could easily, I was going to say lose a whole day. I could easily gain a whole day chatting with you. I can already tell. But before we go, I should say, I want to make sure that you say, and of course I'll put links to everything that I can in the show notes, but where if people want to get a little taste of what you have to offer, which they totally should after listening to this episode, where can they both find out more about you, who you are, what you do, and also if it's different, where can they best connect with you or get to know you, or maybe make a meeting, kind of like converse with you, or do you have DMs that you like people to slide into?
Yeah, I hate DMs. I have to tell you, it's just so distracting. So here's how they can find me in the most direct way, which is my website, www.soheejohnphd.com. And there they can see all of the blogs and the podcasts, as well as interviews and keynotes that I've done, which give a sense of my personality and the way I do things. Also, I have a newsletter that I provide only on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn. I do a monthly newsletter that's really full of very useful, applicable workplace strategy stuff. So find me there as well. Those are the two main places. And I'm obviously on Instagram, but I would say that that's more of a recent thing. They could see that too. Yeah.
I feel like if they go to your website, LinkedIn, I find that LinkedIn is so frequently sort of like, it's almost like a website, a part of a website where it's like, oh, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I've got myname.com or whatever happens to be, but like, you can always, like, if you want to find somebody's Instagram or wherever they else on social, the website I imagine is a great like one-stop shop. Like you could probably find you wherever you are starting from there, and it's just a quick step to anywhere else you might be. So that's fantastic.
That is the bridge. The website is the bridge to everything else.
Website is the bridge. Oh, really ties the room together. I love it. Well, Sohee, I hope this comes through in the Zoom. I have had an absolute delight getting to chat with you. Yes. And I'm already excited to do it again. Next week? No, I'm kidding.
Okay,
we'll let it rest for at least a few months before I come back and get you back on the podcast. But I'm just very grateful that you came on with me today, and I'm grateful that I got to meet you. This is our first chance getting to talk, and I'm just thank you for being you, and thank you for talking to me. I'm just very grateful for who you are, what you're doing, and that I got to get a little slice of it today. So thank you.
Thank you for doing the work in the world that you do.
It is genuinely my pleasure. I get so much from it. It almost feels like cheating. So I guess that's maybe the way it should feel.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for listening. You know what to do. You've gotten a little bit of the sunshine here from Sohee. Go find out more. Go to her website. Go to her LinkedIn. Subscribe to that newsletter. It's probably it's probably get the nuggets. Get the nuggets. I'll leave you with that. Get the nuggets, and we'll talk to you again here very soon.
Bye.